I'm sick. I'm sick here now. I confuse melancholy with depression sometimes. You see.
Why don't you run along now, friend? Your dessert is getting cold.
I'm sick.
Stay that way.
I'm sick and I'm in love.
You seem the sort of person who confuses the two.
That's right. That's the first time you've been right. I confuse the two, and I don't care. Hey. Hey! I love you. I love you, and I'm sick. I'll talk to you. I'll talk to you tomorrow. I'm getting corrective oral surgery tomorrow for my teeth. I love you, Brad. Brad, the bartender. You want to love me back? I'll be good to you. I'll be goddamn good for you. I won't be mad if you don't know who said what. I won't punish
Brad,
you if you get the answer wrong. I can teach and tell
You
you.
have a special secret crush over there, I think. Don't treat him too lovely. You might get hurt.
Mind your own business.
Gently, son.
Brad, I know you don't love me now.
It's a dangerous thing to confuse children with angels.
You want to know the common element for the entire group, like he asked? I'll tell you the answer. I'll tell you, because I had that one. I had that question. Carbon. Carbon in pencil lead is in the form of graphite. In coal, it's mixed up with other impurities. And in the diamond, it's in hard form. Well, all we really wanted to know was the common element, Donnie, but thank you for all that unnecessary knowledge. Kids, heads so full of useless knowledge. Thank you, thank you. And the book says we may be through with the past, but the past is not through with us. And no, it is not dangerous to confuse children with angels.
You are listening to They Must Be Destroyed on Sight. The following podcast contains adult language, adult situations, and spoilers for the movies discussed occur often. You've been warned. Now, take it away, Dr. Rausch.
They must be destroyed on sight.
And welcome back. It is They Must Be Destroyed on Sight, episode 225, and I'm your host, Lee. I'm quietly judging you, Russell. Joined by my co-host, Daniel. You lost me with the last couple of cocktail words spoken, my boy, Harper. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing all right. Unfortunately, not nearly as cool as Henry Gibson sitting in a bar. But
I don't think anyone is cool.
But it is, yeah.
I mean, he's old man with a pompadour going on. I mean, You got to give him some credit.
Jealousy.
I'm probably closer to William H. Macy in that scene, but
Yeah, he's got his strong points too. And
I need to get those red glasses. That's what we need.
Yeah,
They're gorgeous.
Yeah.
And that dye job he's got going on too. That's
so bad.
Shout out to my friends at the Solid Six podcast. They tweeted me tonight that dye job on Quiz Boy is something amazing.
Bad.
Yeah. And of course we are also joined by our new official co-host. It's been made official. We decided we're bringing her on. Lee, that intangible joy in the pit of your stomach, Hardy. How you doing, sir?
I feel
or madam,
like
actually. You're not a sir.
Call me whatever you want. I shouldn't say that. I am. No, I am. I'm she, her, they. So I actually had a friend. I just had a friend who just came out as they came out as non-binary. So I have a real respect for pronouns. So I do joke about that, but I do not want to in a general sense because, I love those people and I absolutely love their stories. So if I can bring more education to it, I want to.
And you're doing fine? You're doing all right?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah,
okay.
Totally different topic, but yeah, absolutely.
She has confessed to me that she's already had several rum drinks tonight, so...
I'm a little I'm a little intoxicated.
Yeah, it's fine. That's
how we roll here. It's fine.
You know, she's a co-host, an official co-host.
Let's get drunk.
I only had 4 drinks before I started here. Yeah, well,
my drinks are rather large. They're large tonight. So
well,
yeah,
they are. Yes.
And if you recognize the opening clip and, if you actually read the title of the podcast, we are doing Magnolia from 1999, Paul Thomas Anderson, and I can't believe this movie is 20 fucking years old.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah. It went into wide release in, I think, January 7th of 2000. It was technically released in late 1999, but yeah. I would have seen this right about exactly 21 years ago, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It will be 22 this year.
I feel... please don't. I already feel old enough as it is.
It makes me feel old. Hopefully.
We're old men. Hello, come on.
Oh, sorry, I heard the Lee part. That was it.
It's fine.
Yeah, but before we get into stuff, we have no comments. Our listeners have been silent the last little while. I will say I have gotten a lot of comments on our Buster Scruggs episode on YouTube. None of them good. None of them good.
Fair enough. They all want to know where the movie is, or they're calling us the 6-letter F word, I'm sure.
It almost feels like our episodes of our podcast just suddenly show up in different parts of the world somehow. Like they're dropped some really awful care package that nobody wants, because you'll get these blocks of weeks where they're all in one certain language, and then they move to another part of the world where they're all some other certain language, and they're all swear words at us in that language. That's great.
So we're not going to bother reading the terrible comments on the Buster Scruggs video.
No. No. Yeah, so we'll just move on to what we've watched in the last little while, and I'll throw over to you first there, Daniel.
Yeah, I just have one. It's really just an advertisement for something you can go listen to on my Patreon page, because I am now producing content on my Patreon for I don't speak German. And that is, I watched the 1971 Peter Watkins film Punishment Park.
Oh, yeah.
And this is a low-budget independent film about this sort of alternate present in which dissidents from the Vietnam War are kind of forced into this penal, sort of a punishment system by which they are allowed to try to survive in a harsh environment in the American Southwest in the desert for 3 days while evading capture in order to avoid lengthy prison sentences for protesting the Vietnam War and other such things. The film is brilliant. My co-host Jack and I spent about 90 minutes discussing what it is and the kind of the history of how it interacts with kind of the leftist movements in the U.S. then and now, and how it doesn't seem to. It's an excellent film, but very bleak in terms of what it implies for our future in Joe Biden's America. So yeah, go give me $1 on Patreon. And you can listen to that. Also, we will probably just make that free here in a couple of months. But the film is amazing, and definitely, I had not heard of it until a few weeks ago. It is definitely, you can find it on YouTube. It is worth a watch for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I have seen it. It was quite a while ago, but I have seen it, and it is really good.
I'll definitely check it out, though. I haven't seen it yet, so it's on my list, and it's on top of my list.
Do you have anything you watched you want to talk about, Lee?
I have 2 movies that I watched that I'm very passionate about. One was But I'm a Cheerleader. The other one was Mambo Italiano. I kind of want to group both together because it's by the end, it's both about family kind of accepting their children as homosexuals. Mm-hmm. So one is about how conversion therapy is complete fucking crap, and the other one is about the idea of tradition and family and the bullshit when it comes to homosexuality. I just have such a passion for both of them because they really show you just how important it is for family to just say, yes, it's okay that you're homosexual. That's it. It's I love it. I have a massive support for the LGBT community. I brought it out so many times. And I love these kinds of movies because it really shows how it can break a family, but if you can really accept it, it can really bring a family together. So both those movies, great. They're awesome. They end in just such a heartwarming way. I love both of them.
And you were also mentioning how, sort of off recording here, how But I'm a Cheerleader kind of takes like the light touch with the serious subject matter to a certain degree.
Where it does.
To help like, ease, the sort of normie kind of viewer.
Yeah, because I don't think people realize how bad conversion therapy is. I took an ethics class in the summer, and it was talking about how to treat anybody, like especially in behavioral therapy, like how you're supposed to treat people. And the big thing is you're not supposed to force a stop to a behavior that is not natural. And homosexuality is very natural, and a lot of people want to stop it because priests say it's not natural and it's not like they're not educated and they don't know how to do it. Like ABA is very studied. It's very much a career. It's very much something that people need to know what they're doing. And this is a bunch of people who are priests and believe that behavior should be stopped, and they do it in a way they believe. So it's insanely harmful, because even if it was a habit that normal, you and I think is normal, if it's not done properly, it can be insanely harmful. So if you take something that is something a part of somebody, it's insanely bad. So that's why I kind of loved it, because it brought more of a bright side, or not bright side, a comedic side of saying, just stop. Like, just please stop conversion therapy. I know in Canada now, it is completely banned. Like, all across Canada, it is banned. Justin Trudeau banned it, and I am hugely grateful for that. People can have a hate on for him, but I stand by that decision, like 1,000%.
Conversion therapy, I mean, it's literally torture. It's child torture. That's what
it is.
Yeah.
It's acceptable child torture in religious ways. Oh my God, don't even, no. We'll get off that.
Moving on to our film of tonight, which has nothing to do with such topics. Anyway,
no. But before that, I have a movie that is totally not nearly as serious.
Not about child torture?
No. Well, it's actually about children torturing other people in a way.
Oh, nice.
But it's really fun. It's called Psycho Goreman. It's from 2020. Oh, yeah. It's directed by Steven Kozansky. He's was part of the Astron 6 sort of group of filmmakers, and a lot of those people show up in the actual film, which was, a Canadian production company that made a bunch of low-budget exploitation movies, if you're not familiar with them. This is really cool. It's got sort of elements of Masters of the Universe, Power Rangers, and even the Iron Giant to a certain extent in this, and it's basically about these two siblings, these two young kids. They dig up at one point the sarcophagus that is imprisoning this intergalactic warlord who is one of the most evil creatures in the universe, and he's been imprisoned on Earth. And there's this gem it's basically some of his essence that was part of him, and it's used to seal him in the coffin. And anyone who possesses the gem can control this evil fucking warlord dude who's just like all about, I'm going to rip your soul apart and destroy you and eat your parents and all this shit. It just so happens that this little girl who takes the gem off the sarcophagus and starts bossing this monster around is a total sociopath. She is just, as kids tend to be, and she is just a monster herself. She's a bigger monster than he is in many regards, and it's just great. Like, so he's under the thrall of her, but at the same time, even though he's compelled to do whatever she says, he's constantly barking threats at her brother, at her parents, at anybody they encounter. He occasionally kills some random people on the side, when no one's looking, kind of thing. And the gore is very over the top, and it's all practical. It's just a fun kind of throwback sort of comedy horror exploitation thing. Really good performances. The two young kids in the leads are amazing, and it's really worthwhile. If you just want something fun, I don't have to think about, there's no big message or anything necessarily. Like the family eventually comes together at the end or whatever, but they're all crap people. Like they're all really terrible people. So there's no real like heartwarming message necessarily. And it's just a lot of fucking fun. It was probably the best thing. to come out of the wake of 2020, because it was supposed to be released, but COVID basically killed its release. It was like COVID literally happened on the week that it was going to release, where everyone starts shutting shit down. And so it finally got a release, and I hope it does really well, because I love the Astron 6 guys, and I really love Steven Kostanski's stuff, and we'll eventually probably do some of his movies on this podcast, but it's well worth checking out.
Yeah, this looks fun. Yeah, definitely, for sure.
Yeah, so we're going to take a really quick break, and we're going to come back, and we're going to talk about Magnolia.
Motion Picture Massacre is dedicated to exploitation, cult, grindhouse, and horror films from the last 7,500 fucking years. I don't fucking know. It's everything. If you're interested in that, check out motionpicturemassacre.com, or if you're on iTunes, search Motion Picture Massacre, and you'll find it. This has been your announcer, Cowardly Fuck Your Bags, signing off. Eat a dick.
Okay, Magnolia from 1999.
Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a line to you from an opera. I want you to give me that line back in the language in which the opera was originally written. And for a bonus $2.50, you can sing it.
I'm Stanley Spector.
There is the story of a boy genius.
Willa Cather, Thomas Kidd, Jean-Baptiste Clairmoyer,
and the game show host.
I'm Jimmy Gator. Live from Burbank, California. First question for 25. This French playwright and actor joined the Béjart troupe of actors.
And the ex-boy genius.
I'm Quiska Dunny Smith. I used to be smart, now I'm just stupid.
There is the story of the dying man.
I'm Earl Partridge.
I have a son, you know.
You do?
Find him.
I'm Frank T.J. Mackey.
His lost son.
What did he say? Because I am not going to take care of him. What does he want?
And the dying man's wife.
I'm Linda Partridge. I took care of him through this, Alan. What now, then? Me and him. Did you understand? There's no one else. No one else.
The caretaker.
I'm Phil Parma. See, this is the scene of the movie where you helped me out.
And there's the story of a mother.
I'm Rose Gator. You come home soon after the show. I love you.
Love you too.
And the daughter.
I'm Claudia Wilson Gator.
Now that I've met you, would you object to never seeing me again?
And the police officer in love.
I'm Officer Jim Curring. My life is very stressful, and I'd hope to have a relationship that is very calm and undemanding and loving. So if you are this person, please leave me a message at box number 82.
And this will all make sense in the end.
I know life is getting shorter. I can't bring myself to set the scene, even when it's approaching torture. I've got my routine.
All right, and this is directed and written by Paul Thomas Anderson, and I think this is.
Let's see how far down this cast list you get. That's my question.
I tried to truncate this quite a bit. This is interesting. There's too many people here. So we got
everyone who was in a movie in the 90s. That's who's in this movie.
Let's just make it so that if you don't know them, we will say it because that's less.
Yeah, that'd be like 3 maybe on this list. But so we got Jeremy Blackman as Stanley Spector. We got Tom Cruise as Frank T.J. McKay. Melinda Dillon as Rose Gator. Alfred Molina as Solomon. Julianne Moore, fucking looking smoking beautiful in this fucking film. As Linda Partridge, John C. Reilly as Officer Jim Curring, Melora Walters as Claudia Wilson Gator, Felicity Huffman as Cynthia, William H. Macy as Quiz Kid Donnie Smith, Louise Guzman as Luis, Philip Baker Hall as Jimmy Gator, Thomas Jane as Young Jimmy, Philip Seymour Hoffman as Phil Parma, Jason Robards in his last role as Earl Partridge, and Ricky Jay as Burt Ramsey / the narrator of this film. And that's as far as I'll go. Like, to try to put this cast in any sort of order is just, it's beyond ridiculous because everyone pretty much gets equal time in this. Like, it's a true ensemble, and although once we get into the discussion, I'll probably talk about how that's probably a mistake in a way. But Daniel, do you have a synopsis? I
was so going to write one, and then I completely ran out of time. So no, I didn't.
You were 2 weeks ago. You would do it.
Yeah. I know, I did. That's my fault.
You were like, I'm going to do this, even though it shouldn't be.
I'm going to do it. I was going to put the work in, and then I watched the movie. I watched the movie last night, and I was like, no, I've got all day Saturday. I've got all day Saturday to do it. And then I ended up having to go to work for like 5 hours.
I feel like it's just a synopsis of like, it starts from the introduction that will make sense to you after you watch the end of the movie, but still won't make sense to you after the end of the movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let me try to wing it here. Okay, so you basically get this premise that a lot of weird coincidences happen, and maybe it's not a coincidence, who knows? And then you're introduced to all these characters over the course of one day.
Over the course of about you have an intro sequence which is about 8 minutes long, which tells 3 stories that of coincidence or maybe not coincidence. And then it cuts to a long sequence of about 12 minutes, which introduces every single main character and sort of the general storylines that we're going to be following through the course of this one day in Los Angeles in the San Bernardino Valley, among which are a game show host and his daughter and his wife and his son, who's also a pre-internet men's rights activist pickup artist guy, played by Tom Cruise, and the TJ Mackey is not he's the son of the producer of the game show, not the actual game show host. The producer of the game show, who's Jason Robards, has a nurse played by Philip Seymour Hoffman, who is perhaps the most caring individual who's ever been portrayed on film.
My God,
and Jason Robards' character's young wife, who is played by Julianne Moore, who is strung out on all kinds of drugs, and then a police officer played by John C. Reilly, who is looking for love in all the wrong places on his job, and the plot, it's as it is, although this gets truncated, and we'll talk about this, is essentially you start the film with Jim Curring, John C. Reilly's character, finding a dead body in a closet on a routine call, and he runs into a young boy who describes his character known as the Worm, and ideally, like the sort of the storyline originally was going to be, we're going to sort of like meet all these people who are connected to this guy, the Worm, and that's going to provide a little bit of a narrative arc. Yeah. And then that whole subplot gets cut. Like, it was supposed to be the film.
It was supposed to be Orlando Jones, and his scenes got
Orlando Jones is he is in the movie, but only from behind, and you only see him in a few shots.
He's the guy who is he not the guy who runs in the rain like that?
That's actually his kid. That's actually his son. That's actually Dixon, the young boy. And what you learn if you know the kind of the backstory here is that Marcy, the young woman at the beginning, the young African American woman at the beginning, is actually the mother of Orlando Jones's character, who's the Worm, and then Dixon, the young boy who does the rap at the beginning, is the Worm's son. Right. Okay. None of this is actually in the movie. This is only like if you've read the script, and kind of know the backstory of it. I have seen this movie many times. This was This was my all-time favorite movie for a number of years. I mean, for several years. Yeah.
And just for clarity, there, Lee, you do not have to ever read the fucking script of the movie. No. That's not a requirement.
I feel like I have to. Okay.
No.
Anyways, we'll wait till we get to like comments, but.
Yeah, so I kind of want to. So there's a lot more to this movie. There's a whole lot. The themes are kind of fathers and sons, and loneliness and coincidence, and interconnection and disconnection,
child
abuse. There's a ton of child abuse, and I think we'll get into a lot of that discussion. There is a reasonable plot summary on the Wikipedia page. If you want to read through that, that's probably the way to go about it. But I'd really recommend you see the movie. You should see the movie. Anyway, so.
But yeah, actually, so I will actually start with you, Daniel. So when was the first time you watched this, and what are your sort of general thoughts? And maybe
I'm going to try to hang back a little bit on this.
Okay.
At least in the beginning, because I have so many thoughts that I can kind of just intersperse them from here and there. Like rewatching this last night was really it taught me, man, I'm not 19 anymore. Because I did see this. I saw this on theatrical release, and this was one that I was kind of a budding movie geek when this came out. I was really kind of reading musical news a lot and that sort of thing.
Yeah, same here.
And I heard the title. And, people were saying oh, this is going to be great. And I think I had seen Boogie Nights at that point, but I wasn't like a huge Boogie Nights guy. I liked the film, but I wasn't, it didn't hit me in quite that same way. But I saw the trailer, which you excerpted here. I saw it theatrically. I think I probably saw it in front of American Beauty or something. That I was immediately jolted into I have to fucking see this fucking thing. That's that trailer sold me immediately, and even now I kind of watch that trailer and go, that is a truly astounding. The trailer itself is an astounding piece of filmmaking. It really sells the movie in its way, and so I was really pumped to see it. And the day it showed up in my multiplex outside the Walmart or whatever, it played for I think 2 weeks in my local market at that time, starting about 3 weeks after it even hit wide release, and I saw it twice on consecutive weekends.
Holy fuck!
That's how much. One of those times during an active tornado warning.
Holy fuck!
Yeah,
you're bright. You're dedicated. Holy shit!
I was the one person in the theater to see it. I went after.
You're I'm dead. If I'm gonna die watching this movie.
Yeah, if you grew up in Alabama, tornado warnings are not it's it's a thing.
I think. Oh my god. My dad. I can't remember which country it was, but my dad was touring. It was touring in Europe, and he went somewhere off. Outside of Europe. I can't remember where exactly, but he went and watched, I can't remember what movie it was. Silence of the Lambs, when it just came out. And the theater and the process was being bombed. And my dad was freaking out. And everyone else was really calm. And it turned out that my dad found out that afterwards this was really common for them. And I think that's kind of the situation you were in. It's just, cool, whatever, this is happening, it happens all the time, fuck it, if this is gonna happen, it's gonna happen.
So Silence of the Lambs, when was that released?
91, 92?
Would that be Yugoslavia, Serbia, somewhere around then?
It might not have been Silence of the Lambs. I might be wrong. I think I just fucked it up because my dad did commercials for Silence of the Lambs. It was another movie and I can't remember what it was. It was way back in the day. Cannot remember, but anyways, either or, it doesn't matter.
1991. Yes.
No. This
back
was
in the ancient
70s.
Times, long ago.
No, hold on a second. This was in the 70s.
Oh, in the 70s
when it happened.
Well, then it wouldn't be Silence of the Lambs.
No, it wouldn't be. And I realized after I said it, I was like, hold on a second. I cannot remember the date. I cannot remember what movie it was. Now I know Silence of the Lambs because commercial breaks, that it ruined the whole theme for my dad. But it was a movie. And whatever it was, what it was supposed to be, my dad said it was more terrifying because the bombs falling down, and my dad was not from that area, but everyone else was just acting casually, and that's kind of how I picture you. Just you in the theater. There's the tornado warnings, everything happening, and there's tons of fucking sirens going off, and you being whatever.
It wasn't that
happens.
Dramatic. It was not.
It happens all the time. I'm used to this, and that's all I picture in my head. Yeah, it's just something normal. because everybody else thought it was normal. So there wasn't crazy amount of people, but there was people in the theater being like, yeah, this happens. And you're in the same situation. It happens.
If it was bombs falling in the 70s, it probably still was like Serbia or someplace, and I'm guessing.
I can't. I'd have to ask my dad.
Some Eastern Bloc country of some sort or something, I don't know.
For homework, I will talk to my dad, ask him when it was, and I'll give you the movie. So we have a more accurate date. But
don't leave us hanging.
Yeah, my dad traveled a lot in the 70s, like a lot during the 70s. So, he lived in England and he traveled with Screaming Lord Sutch, which I know a quarter of the people know what that is, but it was a European band and he traveled everywhere.
Yeah. So, anything else, Daniel, or do you want us to move on to?
I think. I mean, I have lots of thoughts here about how this film struck me then, and how it has kind of aged for me. I'm gonna probably agree with a lot of the criticisms that you guys are gonna bring. But I'd like to actually kind of like let you guys kind of like have like I don't want to dominate this too much because I really could sit here and talk about this for 2 hours. So let's move away from me, and I will kind of come in as I need to.
Okay, so Lee, what are your sort of initial sort of thoughts on this one?
Okay, so it took me 2 times to watch this film. I tried to watch it the one night and I fell asleep 4 times. It is a very long movie, and I was tired when I did watch it, so I do blame myself for that. Directing, acting, like, it was really good. Like, the music they chose for scenes, the acting in certain scenes, like, I felt it. Like, it felt good. But I think the big thing is, like, this is one of those, like, top-down, bottom-up, like, views kind of things. I'm very much like a top-down person versus a bottom-up. So you need to tell me what I need to look for. If I don't know what I'm looking for, I cannot find it. Like, abstract ideas are totally, like, oblivious to me. Like, you cannot, I don't see past what I'm told. And it's just there's so much in this movie, and I have such a short attention span that it's so hard for me to, like, really connect a lot of the stories. And I won't take away from the fact that this movie is really well made, because the acting, the feelings, everything, like every scenario that happened, I really got into it. I felt for the characters. The one kid, Stanley, God damn it, like with his dad and everything. Like, I was from a small town where people literally just, there was these really insanely talented kids who just got forgotten because their parents forgot about it, didn't give a fuck about them, the school didn't give a fuck about them, but they were insanely talented in whatever area. They were super intelligent, super artistic, super athletic. Didn't matter. They would get nowhere because no one cared about them, and they'd just be left in the dust. And I saw this genius kid who the dad was trying to take advantage of, and it broke my heart. I just saw that, where it was like, oh, there's dollar bills. Oh, you can't make those dollar bills. I'm just going to abandon you. Same with the Whiz Kid. Like, his storyline was just, I had such a pity for him, because I was like, that's my hometown. That's literally my hometown. Like, they give up on anybody. Like, okay, cool. We're going to take whatever we can from you. Once you're done, we're going to drop you. Like, who gives a fuck about you?
And this is like LA. This is an incredibly common kind of story you hear about, like, child actors whose, like, parents take their money, or, and spend everything, and then, they kind of grow up, and then they're like, well, I guess I'm fucked.
Yeah. Yeah, the Whiz Kid I had the biggest heartbreak for, because he at least got to make it out and kind of make it as an adult life. But in my case, in my small town, like, the parents would take advantage as far as they could take advantage of them. So either they were super athlete, super intelligent, super fucking artistic, whatever. And then once they were done, they're like, okay, cool, you're done. Like, be on your own. We don't care about you. And that's the truth. That's the fucking truth. And oh God, I could say so much about that. Like that final, like that scene where he's doing the whole quiz and he doesn't want to answer the questions anymore because of, like, his incident. I'm like, oh my God, I respect you so much. And I completely honor the fact that you were just like, I'm going to call all of you out. Like, I love that. I absolutely love that.
Well, it's not just his father, the whole system. Like, the whole like, the TV show exists.
The kids that who were supposed to be on his team, the fucking announcer, the girl who was supposed to take care of him. Oh, yeah. It was an insanely powerful statement. And that's why I like this movie, because there were so many very powerful moments. Like, the end when the wife finds out the husband did some terrible things, and she leaves him. like, she finds out some shitty things about their marriage. Whatever, cool, that's just marriage. And then she finds other shitty things out, and she's like, no, I'm out, I'm gone. No, fuck you. And I had so much respect for that. And the same with, like, the cop and the relationship with, like, the drug addict. And I thought that was so beautiful because he's like, yeah, I'm fucked up too. Like, we're both fucked up. We're both weirdos. We're both fucked up. Like, let's just be fucked up together. And that was so beautiful, and I loved it so much. Like, that's why I'm saying, like, this movie was so well directed. There's so many good parts of it. It's just so abstract for me that my brain can't handle abstract. I couldn't appreciate it as much as I should have. And I know you were talking about it, about, like, reading the book and understanding more, and I think I would have appreciated more if I did read the book, because, goddamn, it was so... The script.
Yeah.
Just because it was so well directed. It was so well directed. Like, the acting, like, I felt every character. Like, I could say so much about this. Like, there were so many things I loved about it. The intro, when the daughter and the father had their interaction, at first I was, like, looking at it, I'm like, this is weird acting. I don't like it. Like, I'm going to criticize it. And then at the end, when I found out the whole history, I was like, no, I get it now. I get it. Like, she was told this is what happened to her. Holy fuck, do I feel it. And I'm going to say, I hate Tom Cruise. I hate him as a human. I hate him everything. I hate everything, fiber of my being. But holy fuck, was he ever so good in this movie. He was so good. He played such a good asshole. Like, he played the best fucking douchebag out there. He played the person you want to hate, the person you want to make like every fiber of your being. And the fact that he got owned by Guinevere, and you're just like, yes, I love this. And at the end, you have pity for him. Like, this is acting. This is goddamn acting.
Yeah, it's interesting that this movie it kind of utilizes like what everybody kind of secretly thinks about Tom Cruise to like really well. Like, you know, he's got this persona and stuff, and he's got all this weird Scientology bullshit and all that, and he's, you know, he's the big movie star who doesn't really do the meaty roles or whatever. So then he comes on and he does like a meaty role, and
he's so good.
And he's really good in this. I don't think he deserves the Oscar for it or whatever. He won an Oscar for this, right?
He didn't win the Oscar. He was nominated.
He was nominated. Yeah,
he deserves to be nominated.
He deserves to be nominated. Does not deserve to win, as far as I'm concerned. Like, there's plenty of people in this movie who are way better than he is in this.
Right.
Yes.
But I do love that this movie like really utilized like his image and everything and put it into this character, and like kind of just manipulates the audience into going like, yeah, that is Tom Cruise, that fucker. And
that's
like,
exactly how I felt.
And I really buy it. Like, you know, it really works. It's a really good cohesive little thing.
Cruise was coming off of Eyes Wide Shut at this point.
Yeah,
He had just finished filming Eyes Wide Shut, and in fact, Paul Thomas Anderson met him on the set of Eyes Wide Shut to discuss coming on and doing this movie. Like that, if that puts you in the right head frame for, you know, the era of Tom Cruise's career, right? You know,
when he does what he does, he does really good. And I do like Tom Cruise as an actor in certain plays, but honestly, like, if he just dropped off the world, like the universe, I would not give a fuck. I understand that some good things would
future movie god segment, I suppose.
I mean, considering the stunts he does, he might drop off the world at some point just because he's.
But if you told me, like, if we did that the whole god thing, I would take him away, because he brings so much negativity, because unfortunately Scientology is so terrible to women, so terrible to homosexuality, and those are two things that you already know that I'm so passionate about. So I'd just rather not. I would care less that he did an amazing movie and be gone than him just not promoting so much negativity towards certain aspects of my life that are so important. But besides that, back to the movie. I have a couple more points, and then I'm going to move on. Sorry, I have a lot of points. I really, really enjoyed how Cynthia was brought up to be this really caring, warm person. Like, you saw her as this, like, I love these kids. I take care of these kids. These kids are everything about me. I'm going to make them feel super comfortable, because, like, when she was bringing up the dad, who was a super asshole, and she knew the dad was an asshole, and she's like, I'm going to make this kid feel good. I'm going to make him feel happy. I'm going to talk about what he wants to talk about. I'm going to be like, water's wet, like that kind of joke that she made, but she's making it as like, I support what you do. And then when the kid said, I have to pee, And she's like, you have to be on in a minute. I don't care. And I loved how they did that because it showed how she was there just to be a part of the channel, to be a part of the show. Like, it really showed her carelessness for the children, essentially. She didn't give a fuck about the kids. She just cared about making sure she put this persona on to say, I need this kid to be there because I know this is a star child. And then the whole bullying about the kid and how they were supposed to put it all against and everyone was really mad at him. I was totally supporting the kid because I was like, no. Like, as a child that's been in that situation where you're like, I have to pee, and they're like, you can hold it. You know, you don't know how long I've held it for until I've actually gained the courage to say I've had to pee. And I remember I felt so bad for the kid. I knew it was worse for him because it was on live TV.
When you watch how that show plays out too, like, you know, the time they take for Jim Gator to, you know, after his little spell there and he falls and shit and all that stuff, it's like they could have given the kid a time for a pee break. Like, they really could have.
They could have literally went to the kids and been like, hey guys, are you okay? Because he mentioned before he went on set, before it went live, before the show even started, I have to pee. And she's like, okay, well, it's too late now. So they went from the break, and she should have easily, and when she heard about it, known this kid has to pee.
And it wasn't too late too, because it's like they did the whole startup of the show, and there was like plenty of time there. It's like he could have run off for like 30 seconds to the bathroom, took a piss, come back in, good for the show.
They didn't give a fuck about the kids. They gave a fuck about the ratings.
But at the same time, if he didn't have to pee and he didn't piss himself, and then all that shit didn't happen, he might never have spoken up about how much he's being abused by this fucking show too. So,
and by his dad.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole ending with his dad too. I don't know if anyone noticed either. John C. Reilly. This is like the first serious part I've seen him, because newer stuff he's always comedic.
Has he done anything that was like serious dramatic before this, Daniel? I can't remember.
He was in Boogie Nights, and that's sort of
that's right.
Comedic role.
Yeah.
He's also in Casualties of War, which was one that
shit. He was in sorry, go on.
No, go ahead.
That was the one we did. That was the Vietnam War movie we didn't get to cover. That was
right.
Yeah.
Wasn't he in the one with the woman who adopts all the dogs? I cannot remember the movie. It was supposed to be a comedy movie, and yes, he was, and it was like a comedy. It was supposed to be comedy, but it was very serious. It was a woman who dealt with a lot of mental health problems, and I watched it, and I had a hard time watching it, and he was in it. I can't remember the name of the movie.
He's really good. Like, very, very good.
He's good as a serious actor. Like, I enjoyed him.
He was this kind of indie actor. He did a lot of he kind of played a lot of like tough guys, kind of like big heavies and kind of assholes for a while. And so when he converts into being like, you know, what's his name, Will Ferrell's buddy, he kind of definitely throws whiplash into his career. But I mean, it was clearly lucrative for him, you know. But I knew him from this kind of stuff.
But
he's in Gangs of New York. He's got
that's fucking that's fucking right. Yeah. But I mean, he does have like that comedic timing where it works well as a dramatic actor, because he can play awkward, he can play outsider weirdo, and the comedy sort of informs that. And like you notice this character, like he feels like out of everybody in this almost even more of an outsider than a lot of these people. Yep. Like, and I think the one scene that kind of like really signifies it is where he's standing as a cop in the aftermath of the, he finds the body. And so the homicide detectives are there and shit, and he's just the patrol man standing outside of that. And he's trying to be part of it. You know, he's nodding and like saying, yeah. And he's like, this lady was, and the detective cuts him off, basically says, don't need that or whatever. And he just shuts up or whatever. And it's just a really good little character moment that works really well.
It is. I kind of have a laugh though, just on the fact that you see John C. Reilly back then and you see John C. Reilly now, and you're like, how much work did you have done? Because they saw angles, and you're like, those acne scars. Like, I would have never noticed them then, now, if I hadn't noticed how clear your skin is now. And it's just a small thing. I don't think very many people will realize it. But for me personally, like as soon as I saw it, I looked at him. I'm like, your skin looks way better now in 2020 than it did back in 1999.
I imagine it's just makeup. Like,
well, it's also just surgery. Like it's Botox and shit because that's all the stuff that gets rid of that shit.
I don't know if he's had that though.
I think Botox is common. Botox is very common. All it does is just take away like wrinkles and acne scars. It's just a quick, cheap, considering their salary procedure, that just gets rid of all that stuff.
I mean, he might have, but I don't know.
I think the only last point, I know I've been kind of going on because it's first of all, it's like a really long movie, but the only last part I want to bring is Linda, her relationship. I just got onto the roller coaster with her relationship because at first I thought she was trying to get drugs to kill her husband, and I thought she was get drugs to like sell them or do something and that to get drugs, and then you realize like I fucked up. Like I'm a shitty human being. Like I hated my husband, but now I love him and he's an amazing person. And then you find out the husband was a horrible husband beforehand, and he did the same thing as his current wife, and it's that relationship was such a roller coaster. Like I remember, yeah, it brought me through all the feelings.
Yeah, I'll get back to that performance. I'll bring that up later. But just for me, so this is the second time I've watched this. I first watched it in 2000. I rented it. I can still remember I rented the VHS, 2 VHS tapes.
Yep, because the DVD wasn't released until later.
Yeah,
it was released on VHS first. One of those like that weird era when they did
the
that.
Storm, Titanic.
And I can remember I watched most of it, and I fell asleep halfway through. I think I watched it in the summertime. It was like a really hot summer's day, and I was laying in my bed kind of watching it, and it was too hot, and I kind of fell asleep. And I woke up like near the end, and I kind of like just didn't bother to rewind it and see what happened and shit, and I was like, okay, whatever, and then I took it back. Watching this time, I really enjoyed it. It is, I'd still say it's way too long. I mean, you could literally cut an hour and a half out of this, and it would be a perfectly great movie, I think. I mean, today this would be a mini-series on like Netflix or something like that, right? Like, I mean,
that's easy to imagine. This is like an 8-hour mini-series.
Yeah. Exactly, yeah. But I mean, it's filled with fine storytelling. The performances, as we've already talked about, fucking brilliant, and I'm sure we'll probably maybe get into some details about some of the specific ones as we go along here. And I can understand why Paul Thomas Anderson did this, because it's like he got, after Boogie Nights and stuff, it's like he's got he wrote his own ticket. It's like, okay, it's one of those things where, great director does a great film, and then it's like, okay, we're gonna give you a bunch of money, do whatever you want because you're a hit maker, kind of thing. Right. So it's like, well, I'm gonna put all the shit that I want to put in this movie because I might never get the chance to do it again. So he puts it in this. So I'm not, I have no complaints about how it actually ended up or whatever. But I do feel like this is a bit too precious at times. Like I think sometimes it gets a little too in love with like how clever it is. Yes, everything connects, and you got magnolias all over the fucking place, and a lot of that stuff's good, but at the same time, a lot of it's kind of a little too precious, a little too like, I wrote a story, and I'm really clever at it, and I wrote a lot of really clever story things, and
it's the kind of thing that like he was 29 years old.
Exactly,
like,
exactly.
Very,
I feel bad about criticizing it because it's like he literally just made a better movie than I would ever make. So it's like I'm not shitting on it, but it is.
Well, he comes off of this and goes on to make Punch Drunk Love. Like he kind of like he makes sort of like the big giant everything in kitchen sink version of a movie, and then just kind of radically changes the way he makes movies after this. Like this, he sort of did everything that you could do with this kind of idea, and then strips everything back down and makes like the 90-minute Punch Drunk Love, and then the next one is like There Will Be Blood.
Yeah. And I mean, there's a lot in this that kind of informs Punch Drunk Love, right? Like because there is sort of funny, whimsical, almost like fantasy parts to this that are very just interesting and weird. I feel like when I got about close to the 2-hour mark, I felt like it's all done, right? Like, because when you get around that point, everything is ramped up. Like, this is where
that's around the musical sequence. Like, that's around when they do the Wise Up musical sequence.
And I feel and I feel like, okay, this is gonna be over in 15 minutes. Like, realistically, they're gonna wrap everything up in 15 minutes. It's like, no, we got another hour, bitches. And this
gotta keep you going.
And so, like, I'm sure this is probably everybody's pretty much criticism with this, who's like critical of the film, is it's too long, and it is too long. I think there's so many really great stories in this that all deserve a feature-length film that are truncated by the fact that they're part of this ensemble thing that's 3 hours long, and a lot of them don't get time to breathe, so the pacing of them is not necessarily always great. You look at Julianne Moore's stuff, which is fucking brilliant. Like, I think her performance, like, just playing this character who is racked with guilt over the shitty things she's done in life, it is like it had me just like glued to the fucking screen watching it, and I was just so into it. And then it goes on, and she does it again, and it's like, okay, the pacing of this is really weird. It's really off, and I feel like the John C. Reilly stuff with what's her name, Melora Walters.
Melora Walters, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of that's really good, and then it gets really super hyper again and weird. And I feel like if this was paced out in like a separate movie, it'd be way better. And then I'm not shitting.
Well, it's not hard to imagine like a Punch Drunk Love, but like it's Jim Curry and Claudia Wilson Gator. It's not hard to imagine like, oh, that love story just being its own thing.
Well, that's kind of the one that I thought really most informed Punch Drunk Love. Like, that's kind of the comedic romantic story with some serious tones that really is kind of the same thing in a lot of ways. But I kind of really want my separate movies. Like, I kind of really want, like, the Julianne Moore, struggling with her dying husband and all that. Like, I think that is a really interesting movie. Philip Seymour Hoffman,
that face he makes.
God damn, watching this fucking performance, and it made me sad. It made me so fucking sad. Like, just to know he's dead. Like, I'm listening.
Do you know he was 46 when he died?
Yeah, I do.
I mean, does that make you feel fucking old or what? Like, Jesus Christ.
It makes me feel old, and it just makes me feel sad that we're not getting more performances from him, because he's so fucking brilliant in this. And like,
he was only 32. He was only 32 when he made this movie.
And I'm just like, God damn it! It's like it just sucks to see that shit. But it's so I'm like really conflicted with this one. Like, I like it a lot, but at the same time, I'm sort of giving my initial thoughts here, but I guess I'll just bleed it into somewhat my final thoughts.
I went on.
Yeah. It's kind of a bare recommendation in a way, because it's like, you got to know what you're getting into. And like, there's so much good stuff that could be done better, I think, in a different format. And there's a little too much in this film, I think, at times. So it's kind of where I sit on it.
I think there's I think the thing that drew me to the film, certainly when I saw the trailer originally and then kept me coming back to the film over and over again, was that sense of overstuffedness. Like, we're talking about the kind of individual storylines, but the storylines don't just inform each other, don't just inform the others on, sort of like, oh, and this character ends up being connected to that character, but like, there are themes at play here of, fathers and sons and children and abuse and, kind of the role of coincidence and the role of damage down the generations. Like, this is the thing that, and if we did just have like the various storylines kind of disconnected, you don't get that sense of kind of rising momentum from it. So
it's true. And
I think that, I definitely see kind of where you're coming from here. I mean, this is a movie that is very much of that moment in 1999. It was very much of that era of filmmaking in which, we don't see this kind of like everything but the kitchen sink, and then also the kitchen sink, and then also the Cuisinart, and also the bathroom sink, and everything. Like it's you don't see that anymore. This is only a few years. I mean, Shortcuts was 93. The Player was 92. Some of the people, I believe, the editor of this actually worked as an assistant editor on both Shortcuts and The Player for Robert Altman. And it was on the strength of this film that Anderson kind of ends up being like Robert Altman's last movie was The Prairie Home Companion, and he only got that made because they agreed to have like a second director kind of there to come in if Altman died during the production, and Paul Thomas Anderson was the person who was trusted to do that. I think regarding sort of the making of it, I mean, this is New Line was trying to compete with Miramax for kind of that top talent that really like making these kind of like weird indie prestige films, and they were trying to kind of, and they gave Anderson like final cut without even seeing a script, which never ever happens. I mean, that's just, it does not happen. I mean, you really get the final cut, but I mean, they threw, I think this was like a $37 million movie or something like that, which for a movie like this it was a fairly large budget at the time. I mean, it shows on screen like every dime of that is on the fucking screen.
I really like the soundtrack too. Like they put a lot of the songs that they put were just so involved in the scene.
The script was written around the Amy Mann songs.
Yeah,
the Amy Mann songs were actually like, he met Amy Mann because he had directed some music videos for her husband at the time, John Bryan, who ends up writing the score. All the score pieces for this were written by John Bryan, and I think I mean people love the soundtrack, love the Amy Mann stuff, and I do too. I fell in love with Amy Mann. I still love Amy Mann, but the John Bryan score I think is, if anything, even better. I mean, that kind of big orchestral piece. They do
it well.
I mean, it's just kind of everybody working at the top of their game. I'll go into my criticisms because I think I have a much deeper relationship with this film, and I'm glad that you both get at least something out of the viewing of it. I think the John C. Reilly sequences just basically don't work at all in this film. I think particularly in 2021, it's a lot easier to kind of see, man, you're a cop who's hitting on a drug addict on the job, and then you're like dating her afterwards. Like, yeah, this is an abuse of power situation. Like, this is not good. Even aside from that, Anderson is clearly in love with actors. Like, people talk about Anderson and his like facility with the camera and like the all of the just amazing things he's able to do cinematically, but like he says like his favorite thing is just to watch actors act, right? And they do a lot in Boogie Nights, and then here as well they developed a special camera rig so that they could film longer takes. They could just film extended, so typically at test time, this is pre-digital, so they were doing it's all shot on film, and they could shoot 10 minutes in a single like magazine, in a single film magazine was like the longest thing you could do. And if you wanted to go any longer than that, like if you wanted to just kind of get several takes in a row, you had to like change mags, and you had all this kind of technical stuff, and it gets the actors off their game. And so they actually developed this like way of doing like 20-minute magazines, 20-minute film magazines that you could, so that they could then do like the long Jason Robards, monologue, and you could film that all at once, not have to keep changing the film all the time. So there is this kind of, in the John C. Reilly sequences, you see him basically just putting the camera down and watching these two, what we would now call kind of a cringe comedy kind of element to it.
They're really riffing, right?
There's a big riff kind of going on, and a lot of that was John C. Reilly had. It wasn't ad-libbed on the day, but like Reilly had kind of like done some. They did some like cops parody stuff. Like Anderson just went around with a camera like while they were filming Boogie Nights, or maybe in post-production for Boogie Nights, and he would just put on like a cop uniform, and they would film like cops parodies. And this was he apparently took a bunch of that like dialogue that John C. Reilly ad-libbed and turned it into this movie. But like, why are we sitting and watching like 30 minutes of this like in her apartment kind of sitting and like chatting her up? Like, there's not like it's way too much material for it does not move things forward in the way that the rest of the movie does.
That's the thing. Like, I feel like it's better served in an actual movie, like a separate movie, right? Like,
like its own story.
Like that, and you're right. Like this whole the way that segment is structured, especially as much as I like the actors in it, that's what I'm talking about. Where it's way too rushed. Like, there, you it's very hard to buy that. All this, like, it's almost like so comedical. It's like an 80s comedy or something like that, where oh yeah, the crazy drug addict and the straight-laced cop, they fall in love or whatever, and it's so rushed. It's like if you could stretch that out in an hour and a half movie and get into the real, the deep dive of the serious stuff, then maybe you could make it work. But as it's presented, it's just like, what? Because he, like, John C. Reilly's character even flippantly, like, says, I know this is abuse of power thing or whatever, but I'd really like to ask you on a date, or, like, come on, dude. Like,
I thought it was kind of interesting. I did enjoy the relationship. Like, I did enjoy the scenes between them, because I thought it was like two weirdos kind of finding each other in the weirdest circumstances. Because, he made it very clear that he was like a shitty cop because he had lost his gun, and he's like, I'm not that great, I'm not that good. And at the end he was talking about how he gives chances in certain situations, because the guy, the whiz kid who got caught in his shittiness got out of his shittiness because the cop was, or John C. Reilly was saying, I'm gonna give him a chance. And I think that's where I kind of got it, whereas like this girl that he thought was like this had heart to her. And when you realize, like, everything that happened to her, you're like, okay, now I understand why you're doing a lot of stuff that you're doing. And this one person was like, okay, fuck it. Like, I don't care what's wrong with you. Like, I just think you're awesome. And you realize he's kind of a piece of shit as well as a cop, because he doesn't really do good at his job. And I thought it was just this kind of, this beautiful romance between two weirdos who just kind of found each other. Like, they're both fucked up beyond belief. Like, he talks to himself in the car about, like, what he does as a cop. And she's just fucked up in general because everything that's happened to her. So I did enjoy the interaction between him and the girl that he was into. I thought he was just this weirdo side thing, and I kind of enjoyed the weirdo side thing.
Agreed. It's just like, because we spend so much time on the bad cup of coffee, we spend several minutes on that bad cup of coffee sequence, right? Because we spend so much time there, we're not spending time exploring the background of, like, Rose Gator.
I do agree with that.
Her relationship with Jimmy Gator. And, like, she just kind of gets a couple of lines at the end, like, well, you should know better. And it's like, how much did you know this whole time? Like, this is, like, there's a lot that's left unsaid here, right?
Okay. I found this weirdness between the fact that the cop was named Jim and the guy was named Jimmy. I don't know if anybody else caught that, but I was like, really? Really? Is there a reason why there was a name Jim and Jimmy?
There are a lot of parallelisms here.
But that was a very big one for me. That was me who has a hard time recognizing that stuff, and I recognize that.
Yeah, he's coming in as sort of a alternate father figure, and when you learn, like, what her father figure is, like, oh yeah, there's some stuff there that we should.
And it's weird, like, and at the end there, the very last sequence where she's in bed, and I don't know if
and he's standing in the exact spot where Jimmy Gator was standing at the very beginning of the film,
and he's and he's laying down a little bit of edicts, like, listen, I'm not going to give up on you. I don't like you talking about your piece of shit. Like, I'm not going to accept that. And
this is a Reddit thread in the form of a person. Right?
It's actually, you could actually read it as really sinister. Like, he's like taking control of her life, kind of thing.
But doesn't even know what's going on with her life, though, because she doesn't say it. And I think the relationship, the fact that the father and daughter was broken, and the mother who came at the end. By the way, the frog scene was puke. It was disgusting. I had a hard time watching it. Like, I literally covered my eyes watching it because I could not handle it.
Did you know about the frogs before you sat down and watched the movie?
No.
Oh.
It was awful. I had such a hard time, and I had nope. I don't even want to talk about it right now because I'm going to say my point
Imagine
before. Then you can talk about it later.
Imagine if no, Lee, stop. Imagine if you were working in LA and you were a frog cleaner. You had to like sweep them off the ground and stuff.
Why? Why? Anyways, I'm going to go on to what I was going to say before I forget it. I thought it was truly beautiful at the end when she reconnected with her mother. When the mother was banging on the door and there was a whole relationship you thought was so destroyed, and you realized it was the father who destroyed it and the mother reconnected and they reconnected. I thought it was so beautiful. It was so heartwarming because like the father like admitted that he cheated and the mother was like, okay, whatever, like I'll accept that. And then the father admitted like the molestation, and the daughter or the mother was like, fuck you, I'm out.
Well, he doesn't even
really admit to it.
Yeah,
he doesn't. But she doesn't care.
He goes, "Oh, I don't know. I just don't know what happened. I can't. Yeah. I just how.
But she knows.
How can I possibly know?
The fact that there is a yeah, the fact that it is it, and the realization that she knows that he probably denied it because his brain probably just fucking forgot it, but he knows.
No, he's lying. He's
most likely. That's what I'm saying. Most likely, it did happen. Let's just give him the benefit of the doubt that his brain did forget. But the reason his brain forgot was because he did something so traumatic. She's not dumb to the fact that he did something so traumatic that his brain tried to forget it. This is literally giving him the benefit of a doubt, and it's still saying she did the right decision. I massively accept everything that she did. I was like, okay, I understand you've forgiven for the cheating. But as soon as he mentioned, I may have, or she may say, and automatically took the daughter's side, I was like, I love you. I respect you. I think you're the most admirable woman. And this is like, I did not know you the whole movie, but now I want to just be, like, I want you to be my mom because I think you're fucking brilliant.
It makes me kind of think, like, you should have shown more of her during the movie, kind of thing. Yeah.
But that end sequence, because they didn't show much, in the end sequence, when they show them reuniting, you barely hear anything, and that's the only thing you hear of, and the daughter just is like, yes, come to me, and I love you, and I respect you, and I want to be with you, and I want to rebuild the relationship, and it's like just saying, I barely know anything about the mother, we barely know anything about the mother, and the daughter is saying, please come into my life, versus the father, she's like, get the fuck out and never see me again. And I thought this was this beautiful moment. I thought it was so nice. I like the whole chaotic scene and the whole like it was so anxiety ridden too. Like, and
that's literally while frogs are falling from the fucking sky.
That's why I loved it. That's why I loved it.
No. I mean, and the frogs thing is, I know you don't want to talk. We don't have to talk about the details on that if you're grossed out by it. But I mean, the whole like point is, and then sometimes like weird chaos things happen in your life that really like reframe the entire perspective on everything. And I think that like having gone through a year of COVID lockdowns, I think we all kind of understand that like sometimes things change your priorities when outside events. And
I love that they rebuilt the relationship. I loved it.
I think there are some very real questions about like the mother's complicity there, but we can leave that aside for now. I think
just alone that she had to choose between the husband and the daughter, and she chose the daughter. That shows a crazy amount of everything. Like,
she does leave Jim Gator to like try to shoot himself, and it's like fate's like, no, you don't get off that easy. The frogs are gonna bash through your fucking house, and then you're gonna burn to death in the fucking fire. So
she does not give a fuck about his outcome. She doesn't give a fuck about what happens to him. She's like, I care about my daughter. I can give a fuck about you, and that's what got me. I barely knew her, and I was on her side. I was on the mom's side, being like, "You made the right decision."
I do like. I'm usually a little against like, universal karma or whatever in a movie necessarily, but I do like that. Paul Thomas Anderson's like, no, we're going to punish the shitty people in this film. We're going to really punish them bad, and he does.
Tenfold. Except for the whiz kid, I know he did something shitty. But the whiz kid was literally abused by his parents.
He's a victim, and he has a
but he's also forgiven at the end.
Yeah, he has a turnaround, right? Like
he does.
because he doesn't actually mean any harm. He's just the thing
He's
about
slightly punished.
Well, the thing about him is he actually never grew up. Like he is a victim of being a child star who was abused by his parents, and then he's left in the adult world to try to adapt to that, and he can never do it. And I mean, and he has this hopeless love affair with this hunky bartender. Like he's so attracted to him and stuff, and like to the point where he wants to get braces on his already perfect fucking teeth,
right?
Just so he can find some sort of connection with this guy that hopefully might, in some weird way, make him love him. And it's very sad and very just like you can really sympathize with him. And I mean,
I love how the casual about homosexuality too. It was never a big thing. It was just very casual. There's nothing big or really grandiose about it.
I thought it was really funny that he's in the bar and then you and then you got what's his name
Henry Gibson.
Henry Gibson in there as well, who's obviously the older gay man who just gets off on throwing money at this hunky bartender and seeing him turn around to make a drink for him, kind of thing. I was like, yeah, you go, Henry Gibson. You know what you're doing.
I just like that it was so casual. I like there was no second anything about he's a homosexual. He's homosexual. They never brought it up. Like it never was a big issue. I love that it was brought up so naturally. I know it was 1999. I know in the 90s were very pushing forward towards LGBT. Or just gay. I should just say gay. But anyways, and I really enjoyed that they did that.
Just take the T out. I think, LGBT.
Yeah, the trans were not so much.
They weren't really thinking about trans issues and stuff. But,
it was there, but not nearly. But it was still pushing very much forward comparatively to the early 2000s. Because the 90s was more pushing gay rights versus the 2000s, because I felt like there was a downfall.
Yeah, the George W. Bush era was it was a time. It was
a time. Oh, but one of the greatest presidents, right, Daniel? In retrospect, yeah. No.
Oh yeah. Well.
Yeah.
We don't have to go there. It's fine.
This is not a political show. Hey,
No. That was a joke.
Which I respect.
But yeah, no. I just like that, Henry Gibson and fucking
WizKid.
Yeah, and WizKid, William H. Macy, they're William H. Macy targets fucking Henry Gibson's and he just starts chatting at him and you think you're gonna get him? I'm gonna get him, and I love him more than you do and all this shit, and that there's several segments in this that feel like a stage play more than anything else.
Oh yeah,
that's the most stage play of the segments in this film. I feel like I'd really be interested in seeing actually a stage play that just does this bar segment, because I think it's really well done,
or kind of extended version of that. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that he said in the writing of it was that he was trying to take sort of he described the process of if somebody in your life dies. And you're it's this huge traumatic thing, somebody that you care about a lot dies, but then on your way to the funeral, you I can't find my car keys, and I have to find parking, and I have to so the tone of the film, the goal was to sort of capture that dynamic of these huge stories that we've seen kind of over and over again. There's not. There's not a lot of new psychological nuance here, but the idea was to sort of contrast these kind of big emotional moments with sort of the weird, just kind of the weird mundanity of kind of life at the same time.
Yeah.
I think the bar scene, Brad, Brad's got braces, and so William H. Macy wants to get braces because he thinks it'll make Brad like him. So he's spending thousands of dollars on braces he doesn't need just to have a line.
Someone who never felt loved.
Somebody who has love to give. He just doesn't know where to put it. That.
But the thing, he never felt love with his parents because his parents just literally used him for the money that he won. So he just wanted to feel love, and he's I have so much love to give, and you can get. He never felt love. His parents never gave him the love he wanted. This is my perspective, by the way.
And he gets a lesson at the end. Was well, now you do need dental work.
Right.
Yeah.
You're definitely going to need
but he's given
some dental work.
So much forgiveness. Again, it's that weirdo finding another weirdo, and I love the weirdos. like that love relationship between the weirdos just got me. As much as I know you said that it was a waste of time, but for me, it made it worthwhile.
Well, it's not a waste of time. It's a waste of. It's not a waste. It's good material. Like it works for what it is.
I liked
it. It doesn't like. It has to fit within the It has to fit within the film. It has to do something, like like a hammer doesn't have to look. A nail doesn't have to look like a house, but a nail has to. Be a part of a house, right? And so like the scenes, they have to build to something. And in the context of the rest of the film, you're sitting and you're watching these kind of weirdos sit and banter at each other in this like stilted cringe comedy way, and it doesn't fit into the kind of the flow of the rest of the movie in a way. Like the themes are there. It could just be cut back or rewritten and this is Anderson wrote it in like a few months. Actually, I think it was like 2 weeks. Is like the actual like scripting stage, and then like stuff got kind of cut and expanded in shooting. But like this was very much a sort of like off the kind of cuff movie. And let's move on from the from the kind of broader conversation about Jim Curring there, and move into just a little bit of the backstory here, which is probably not something that you two are aware of, but. During the post-production process on Boogie Nights, which was the film that Anderson made before this, both his father, Paul Thomas Anderson's father, and a close family friend, Robert Downey Sr., who was Robert Downey Jr.'s father, and who appeared in Boogie Nights.
Yeah.
Both of those men died during the post-production process on Boogie Nights. And I don't think that you can understand. I think that there's no way to encapsulate the amount of illness and the amount of kind of fathers and sons and this kind of like larger kind of like traumatic experience of this kid who's who grows up in Hollywood, who grows up in kind of the outskirts of showbiz, who PTA's father was a Goulardi. He was a talk show host back in the day, and I don't think that you can understand this film without kind of like realizing that that's really something that's happening. And so those sequences in which Jason Robards is, Robards himself was dying of cancer at the time that he shot this movie. In fact, he almost wasn't able to do it. They were going to give it to William F. Scott. It was offered to him, but he didn't want to do it. And then Robards kind of comes back at the end, and this is his final film performance. So it's Paul Thomas Anderson writing about his now dead father, and while Jason Robards is only dying like on a bed, making this movie with him. I mean, there's something really. It's very hard on its sleeve in that moment, and I don't think there's like an implication of like emotional abuse from like Anderson's father to Anderson or anything like that. No. But I think it's certainly like it informs kind of the way that some of this stuff is shot and some of the sense of empathy. And I know, Lady Lee, you were talking about sort of the cancer sequences, and I don't know if you had any kind of thoughts there.
I think they were just. I think they're just really the whole thing, the whole emotional aspect, like with the cancer and everything, like how. The father feels regret and wants to say things. Both of them, both Earl and Jimmy have these like confessional moments. I thought, like, my dad went through leukemia and he was told he had 6 months to live, and he just kind of had that moment of like, what do I do before I die? Like, what do I do? And I really captured that moment. Like, for me, who had a first-hand experience of someone to say, hey, someone in your life is going to die, to hearing how they acted in a moment where people felt that they're about to die. And I thought it was very real. I thought it was very truthful. Like the dad, Jimmy, confessing like some deep, dark thoughts. And even Jimmy, like talking to his son and saying how he cheated on his wife and all that stuff. And it was just, it was a beautiful tragedy. It was like this beautiful moment where they can confess everything they want to, but it was tragic because everything they confessed was awful. Like it was these awful things.
They're a lot of times you have characters in this basically confessing to the pain that they wrought down on their own children.
And I felt it. Like I know we were talking about it earlier, and I felt it. Like I really, it was those moments that I had a hard time watching because I truly felt it.
Robards really, really good in this, and I mean, it helps that he was actually dying of lung cancer. So it's like, oh, play lung cancer patient. Okay, I'll do that. Sure. I really connected to that performance, though, just because like the way Jason Robards looks in this movie looks a lot like my grandfather looked before he died. Yeah. He didn't die of cancer. He just, he had dementia and breathing problems and stuff like that. But still, it was like
that coughing intro.
Mm-hmm. That
coughing intro right away. Everything I was ever described, everything I've ever saw, that coughing intro. Anybody who's like before I even knew he had brain cancer and lung cancer, the first thing I said, lung cancer.
Yeah.
Didn't even know, and I knew it was lung cancer. That's how good they were at depicting that.
Yeah. So like that stuff really connects with me. And I mean, my favorite performer in this is Julianne Moore, as far as I'm concerned. And even though, like, I think like the second half of her performance kind of gets goes a little over the top, just because again she's another character who doesn't have like a full movie to like space
her character is the least written character in the movie. That's really the issue. And you can even see in like the behind the scenes footage, like there's this documentary, it's called The Moment. If you go to YouTube and search The Moment Magnolia, you'll find it's like an hour and 20-minute documentary. It's included on the DVD. So if you do want to know like a lot of the backstory, it's all there. It's like filmed in real time as they were making it. This is not like an electronic press kit kind of documentary. It's like a real documentary that was made about the making of the film. And it's absolutely, if you're interested in the film at all, it's definitely worth a watch. But you can very clearly see that Anderson doesn't know what really is motivating Linda. He has kind of written her. He has given Julianne Moore the character, and like she's asking, at some points, like, what's my character supposed to be feeling here? And in interviews, he said like, oh no, you're just crazy. You're just crazy. That's all. And it's like, no, that's not actually like a reasonable motivation there, Paul.
Because she runs with it, because she's playing a very stock Hollywood character of like the mistress who or the young trophy wife who marries the rich guy not out of love but out of the need for financial stability or whatever. But here she actually is a character who has a turn, who has fallen in love with Jason Robards' character, and the irony is that she doesn't know what a shitty guy he actually was in his life before they met.
But she was shitty too, shitty as he was.
Yeah, but she has a turn, right? So she's like, she feels this. She's so racked with guilt. Like her performance, just.
You can see
she like you're saying, she didn't have a lot to work with. She wasn't given a lot to work with. She fucking knocks it out of the park because she overacts whatever material she was given. That scene at the drugstore where the pharmacists are suspicious of her because all those drugs she's buying, and then when he comes in that fucking pharmacist finally says says the same thing a little too many times, like, oh, a lot of drugs here. Lady. What are you doing with them? And then she finally just snaps, who the fuck are you? Who the fuck are you to talk to me like that with that much fucking disrespect?
You call me lady. You call me lady.
and
I was just like, this is so good.
How much depression she felt too, like how suicidal she felt.
Yeah.
Because like I was saying at first, I thought that she was taking advantage of the fact that he had so many drugs and he could like sell them. So I was thinking maybe she was like, the young wife was like, cool, let's make some extra drugs being a drug dealer. Or maybe like, okay, cool, let's take some extra drugs so I can take them because I like to get high. Like, because the trophy wife like wants to get high off of stupid shit. Like the stereotypes, not in general. But then that scene, everything happened, and you realize how fucking broken she actually was. Because as soon as she got to the lawyer's office, and she just broke down so bad, like it just took that moment of saying, she's fucked. She's literally fucked.
Especially the lawyer's office. She's so broken that she can't even respond like a human being anymore. Like she's just telling the lawyer, "Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, shut up, don't talk to me," kind of thing. Like she's so broken at that point that she can't even function as
she does a good job.
Adult. Yeah,
you feel
really
it. You feel her craziness. You feel the fucking like it was.
How she doesn't have like 13 Academy Awards at this point is just kind of like weird.
The fact that you tell me that she had, well, maybe because she's female.
Yeah, I guess, true. But I mean, it's just like she's such a good actress. She's such a great actress. It's so good.
Is, and I felt her the most. Like every scene she came up in, my heart just quenched up. Yeah. Like I said, at first I thought she was trying to sell. At first I thought she was trying to be a drug addict, or second I thought she was trying to be a drug addict. She was just like taking advantage of it. And then when like the scene where she tried to commit suicide and she was so casual, like I don't know. I just thought she made me feel. She made me feel what a person who tried to take advantage of someone and do stupid shit all of a sudden started feeling. Was like, wow, I'm a piece of shit human. What the fuck am I doing? I hate myself.
Yep.
And when she tried to do everything, like, it hurts to watch it.
Yeah, I agree. Is there anything else we want to bring up? Or
can we bring up Ruiz?
Yeah.
Ruiz
Guzman?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because he was an asshole. He was an asshole to the kids. But you could tell to Stanley, he was not an asshole. He knew something was going on. You could see he was like, hey, what's going on? What the fuck? Like, what's happening? And then when the kids were picking on him, he was like being a real big asshole. He was being like, what the fuck? No, I'm going to do everything. But when Stanley was trying to go to the washroom and they're like, hey. And you could tell he had this sensitive side for Stanley, but hated everybody else. He's like, I don't give a fuck about everybody else. And I think that's one thing I wanted to bring up because he had such a small part, but it felt so significant because he was an asshole. Like, you could even tell when he was talking about being, like, lactose and shit. But when it came to Stanley being discomforted, he was actually being nice. And then when it came to kids losing, he was like, in your face, you lost. In your face. I don't care if it was called and it wasn't a proper match. In your face. And it's because they bullied Stanley.
Mm-hmm. I like it. Like when he's first introduced, he's like, he's so like the game show for people who ever watch this. It sets up this panel of kids versus this panel of adults, and the show's like, what do kids know anyway, or whatever the fuck the show's called. And
what do kids know? WDKK.
Yeah. So Luis Guzman's character. He's introduced basically walking to the stage or whatever, and he runs into like a PA, and she's talking to him, and he's like, "Can you get me like a low-fat milk with like 2 ice cubes?" Like he's really showbizzing her a little bit, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But I just love that he's talking shit to the 2 asshole kids on the other panel. Like he's just constantly talking shit to them. I was like, "Yeah, you go, Luis." You
he was trying to be an asshole to the kids.
Mm-hmm.
But he was being really nice to Stanley. And it was very discreet how he's being nice to them. But he was trying to be like, hold on a second, what the fuck? Like, what are you doing to him? And, and I think there was a massive nod to abuse towards kids. Like the whole showbiz kids. Because you saw with the Wiz kid and has him telling how his parents just basically abused him for the money. And they showed the dad basically abusing him for the money, and the kid at the end being like, you need to treat me better. And the dad was like, go to sleep. It completely ignored the kid's acknowledgement.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like a lot of these stories, like it feels like they're left at like sort of ends like they're probably not going to end too well. Like you kind of feel like that kid's like his dad ain't gonna get any better kind of thing.
But the kid also realized that he was, and he faced it. And a lot of times, like anytime a bully is faced with like the reality of the situation, they kind of clue in. So for me, I thought the opposite. I thought like this kid was like, no, cool, I'm your child, but guess what? I'm the one who brings in the fucking money. You're gonna start treating me with respect.
It might, but it's just like I kind of felt like maybe that's not going to happen, and maybe
we'll never know.
Like John, like the cop and the drug addict story. It kind of feels like that ain't gonna. That's not going to end good. I don't think it's gonna. She's constantly throwing cocaine up her nose. I don't feel like she's going to clean up anytime soon. I don't know if that's going to.
You
work
never know. In addiction, you find out and you want to get better, you can get better.
But what I like about I do like about the film, it doesn't give you that sort of like trite little conclusions that everybody's happy again. There's no
solution.
No, like Tom Cruise goes to the hospital to check up on the widow of his father,
Linda. Yep.
Yeah. So and there's no actual scene with them in the hospital room talking or anything like that. It's just like he's just going there. So it's like it leaves open all these questions of like these characters, nothing's really tied up.
The guy with his teeth, like he never talked about fixing his teeth. The whiz kid never talked about fixing his teeth. The situation, even with the cop who let the guy go for trying to rob this one person, the addict falling in love with the cop, and Tom Cruise trying to rekindle his relationship with the mom, and the mom trying to rekindle the relationship with the drug addict. Like there were so many untied ends that were just left untied ends.
Yeah.
Like there's no conclusion to any story. It was just saying, hey, let's bring you back to the intro of what we told you, and here's the ending.
Yeah, it's just like a lot of weird shit happened, and these characters are changed a little bit, and that's about it. Like, there's no real end to their stories, except for the dead people. The people are going to die. Their story's kind of like, we know where that's going. But, yeah.
But even the dad, the Jimmy, when he tried to commit suicide, it was a very big fail. So it'd be interesting to see. Like,
well, I mean, his house catches on fire. So,
but even then, you never know.
He's unconscious. He's got dead frogs all over his face. I'm pretty sure he's
I get that. I too get that. But again, it could be because there is a fire, because there is an alert for frogs in general that they could be looking. So. It's just one of those things. Like there's no conclusion.
What you didn't see is that actually several of those frogs survived the fall, and they just ate his body before he burnt to death.
You hope so. You hope that he dies, but realistically, you never even know. Like I know they caught fire, but because they're on high alert, because of everything else, there's no conclusion. There's no actual conclusion. Like it's all hypothetical. Everything that we've learned is hypothetical. That's all we know.
I will keep my frog-eating pedophile headcanon, and you can keep your everybody is happy headcanon.
I never said everybody's happy. I just said in general, like we don't know how the ending happens because he could be saved and go through criminal charges. And there's other things that could happen.
Wouldn't it be great if he got tried with half his face burned off, though? That would be pretty good.
It would, yeah, that's what I mean. Like, there's no conclusion to any of these stories. You can literally make up your own ending for a lot of these stories. There's no actual, for sure, conclusion. Everything that you see is brought up to what you have been informed with.
I'm telling you, this P.T. Anderson guy, he really needs to learn how to write a story of an ending. Fucking piece of shit.
There is no ending. You're absolutely right. There is no ending.
Go back to screenwriting class.
Exactly.
Because even Julianne Moore, who was in the process of dying, the ambulance flipped and caused crazy amount of chaos, and she was still called for the stepson to come check on her. Yeah. That's I totally forgot to bring this up. This is my last point, and then you can do whatever you want to say. But I really enjoyed how they created very chaotic moments. So when the cop first met the drug addict, and there's a lot of other scenes, like when the interviewer met Tom Cruise, and when the frogs started falling, there's a lot of chaos that happened that created anxiety. Because when you're watching it, there's so much noise that's happening, and there's no solution, and you're just watching, being like, what the fuck is happening? And you have this feeling inside of you of when's it gonna stop? Why can't this noise stop? Why can't I just focus on one thing? And I actually really enjoyed that. I really got involved with it. Again, I probably won't watch it again, but I did appreciate those tactics the director used. Anybody who really enjoys these kinds of movies, I feel would really dive into this and just be so just into it.
So is it just the version I was watching, or are there parts of this film where the score actually overtakes the dialogue and you actually got to turn the subtitles on to see what they're saying?
I felt like I had to turn the subtitles on.
Yeah.
There's
It's
some
actually,
scenes where the music was louder than the
intentional.
stuff.
It was an intentional, like
I felt that's what it was, but yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, because I saw that, but even the one moment where she had the music on so loud and the cop was there, I thought it developed a moment. Like, I really thought it developed a moment because she was screaming and there was this just chaos, everything. As soon as he opened the door and everything just calmed down, even though there was a lot of music, he was just like, wow, she's beautiful. And I know it's sort of totally different storyline, but I just kind of enjoyed how it made me feel like anxious. I just like, turn the music down, bitch.
Yeah,
like,
she can't, and she's just not thinking about it because she's strung out in fucking cocaine.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, it was good. It was good.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all.
All right. Probably worth mentioning here, just as we're wrapping up, on the themes of abuse and fathers and sons and cycles of abuse, etc., etc. Fiona Apple was dating Paul Thomas Anderson at the time that this film was made, and for I think a year or two after that, and she actually appears in that documentary, which I told you about earlier. Lately, in the last year or two, she was kind of asked about her relationship with PTA around this time, and she's like, "Oh yeah, he was a total asshole. He was a totally abusive dick during the entire period that they were dating." So, wah wah.
Wah wah. Yeah, great.
I love Fiona Apple.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, she's great. She's great.
Yeah. Okay, fuck you, P.T. Anderson. Anyway, budget for this was $37 million, box office 48.5. So I don't even know if that's necessarily a win because that could just be like that might barely cover the advertising budget when you think about it.
This really was not like a box office winner. No.
Release info for this. There's a 2010 Warner Blu-ray. You can get it at iTunes, Google Play, Microsoft Store, Amazon Prime, Vudu, Fandango Now, wherever the fuck that is, Movies Anywhere, and a number of DVD releases that came out in the early years after this. As for trivia, I got a couple things here. So Paul Thomas Anderson actually wanted to cast Burt Reynolds for an unspecified role in this, but Reynolds became angry with Anderson during the promotional tour for Boogie Nights and turned the role down. And of course, famously Reynolds didn't even want to be in Boogie Nights, which actually revitalized his career for a while. It was like, Burt Reynolds, his own worst enemy kind of thing. And of course, like the stories at the beginning of like all the weird, like, urban legend coincidences, they're all fake. None of them are actually true. And Tom Cruise turned down the role of Jericho Kane in End of Days from 1999, the Arnold Schwarzenegger Fights the Devil movie, to do this film. Good choice.
Yeah, excellent choice. But then imagine the version in which, Arnold Schwarzenegger is going, "You must respect the cock and tame the cunt."
Respect the cock, tame the cunt. Yeah.
You have to be a homing missile to the poontang, you see.
You must drive your enemies before you.
We get it.
Lamentations of the women and all that, And of course, although this sort of came in late in the script, apparently a lot of like the religious stuff was like from other sources that P.T. Anderson was reading, not necessarily the Bible or anything, but Exodus 8:2 from the King James Version of the Bible reads, "If thou refuses to let go, behold, I will smite all thy borders with frogs." So it's just talking about the plague of frogs raining down on people, kind of thing.
Gross.
And of course, there
are a whole lot of references to 8s and 2s and Exodus 8
everywhere
a few times in the film. Yeah.
Although I will say, like the frogs and other animals being lifted out of ponds by weather fronts and shit, and then like falling and raining is a thing that happens. But to the extent that it happens in this movie, I don't think so. Like the entire city was basically coated with frogs. It's like, where did you find that many frogs?
It was kind of cool they did that. Like they talked about the whole weather front the whole time, and at the end there's frogs.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I saw the frogs, I'm like, oh, I see why they brought the weather front up.
Yeah, that P.T. Anderson, real clever writer.
It was like a small thing that I was Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care for him now after I heard everything. But anyways, yeah.
He's an incredibly talented filmmaker who is, not the nicest person.
There's a lot of...
Unfortunately common. Unfortunately.
It is insanely common.
Welcome to Hollywood, ladies and gentlemen.
The more I learn about it, the more it's unfortunate.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, anyways, go on.
So, what are we doing next?
Well, I've got the DVD. I've still got to get these to you. The Glenda Farrell triple feature here.
Mm-hmm.
So if we can make that happen, then I think we should do that. And awesome. These 3 films combined are about the length of the one that we watched this week. So,
okay,
that works.
I can do that in 2 separate times.
Apologies for making you guys watch it.
It's okay. I have a pretty short attention span. It's difficult, but I did
enjoyed it. It was too long, but I enjoyed it. So I mean,
I thought the directing was good as much as
in more recent interviews, because at the time he was like, "This fucker's as long as it needs to be," and like it's 1 second, you can't cut a single second of it. And in later interviews, he's been asked about it, and like for the 20-year anniversary, he did a Reddit AMA thing, and it's like, what's the one thing that you would do differently in Magnolia? And he's like, chill the fuck out and cut 30 minutes.
Neuroticism much?
Probably.
Gotta make sure everything's perfect.
So Lady Lee, is there any places anyone can find you? Anything you're doing? Anything? Nothing? What's going on?
Okay, so I think the most frequent thing you can find me is on here, this channel. And also, if you check out Redbeard on YouTube, because I have done many live streams with him. I've done a few beer reviews with him. Definitely check him out.
Yeah.
You know him, Lee, and definitely... Yeah.
He is a co-host on Cape Shit on this.
Yeah, so he deserves he absolutely deserves a shout out, because I am the reason I'm here is because of him. So yeah. Yeah,
it's your fault, Carrie. You hear that? If you're listening to this, you piece of shit.
Yeah, you guys can blame him.
Daniel, where can people find you on the interwebs?
Well, you can find me on Twitter. I'm at Daniel E. Harper. If you want to come be one of the few people who's followed me lately. Actually, quite a few people have followed me lately. Because as the world gets worse, my Twitter following gets larger. That's the way it goes. But that's because I do another podcast. If the material in this film was not dark enough for you, and you need darker material, if you want to learn about Nazis, the world of white supremacists and white power advocates in the 21st century and previous, go check out my other podcast, I Don't Speak German. That's at idon'tspeakgerman.libsyn.com. It's a fun time.
Yeah.
I'm following it.
And if you want to find more of this stuff, all of our other podcasts, etc., go to tmbdos.podbean.com, where you can find our YouTube, Facebook, and all of our other links, and join the Facebook group. Best way to get in contact with us: leave us comments, give suggestions for films to watch, all that good stuff. Tell us how crap we are, tell us how good we are, everything. Criticism, open it up. Criticize Lady Lee. Tell her how good she is or how terrible she is on this podcast. Let her know.
Tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell everybody. At least tell your enemies so they tell their friends, and then we have a bigger following. So
exactly, it all boosts the algorithm or whatever.
Negative or positive, as long as we get more viewers.
Yeah. But until next time, thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Lee, and thank you all for listening. And we will catch you guys soon. Goodbye.
Bye.
One is the loneliest number that you'll ever do. 2 can be as bad as 1. It's the loneliest number since the number 1. The saddest experience you'll ever know. Yes, it's the saddest experience you'll ever know. Because 1 is the loneliest number that you'll ever do. 1 is the loneliest loneliest number that you'll ever know. It's just no good anymore since you went away. Now I spend my time just making rhymes of yesterday. Because one is the loneliest number that you'll ever do. One is the loneliest number that you'll ever know. One is the loneliest number. One is the loneliest number. One is the loneliest number that you'll ever do. One is the loneliest number, much, much worse than two.
Thank you for listening to They Must Be Destroyed on Sight. For further episodes, our Apple Podcasts, Facebook, and YouTube links, please go to tmbdos.podbean.com. Thank you. Drive through.